Welcome back to Mighty Switch Force. We're in the second half of the game. Well, not quite half. Its last level's a bit longer than the rest, all things considered.
So what's interesting about this stage is we introduced the lock blocks in World 6, and as a tutorial there was only lock blocks in that level. But the next time you see these, the red and blue ones, we call them lock blocks. Then when the next time you see lock blocks, they're in level 11, and we introduce one standard switch block type. So all the switch blocks are either on or off. In our design sheet, they're either yellow or orange. That was sort of their, one or two. I don't remember which is which. It's been so long. But in this stage, level 14, there's actually two versions of these. There's both the yellow and red, both the 1 and 2. So it's a much more challenging level in terms of like setup and how you get around.
So having not played Switch Force myself, how do the lock blocks work?
So when you stand on them, you see everything of the same color turns from green, and the little center rotates and turns red. So while you're standing on it, and you switch, they don't go into the background. So like right here, you can see he's got the blue, and then the two vertical blocks and the two red.
I see. So when you're standing on a block of a particular color, that color is locked. Okay.
Exactly. And it's interesting. So that puzzle changed at one point because I'm a big fan of like symmetry, and so there used to be 2 reds, 2 nothings, and then 2 blues or whatever. And you couldn't see the bomb you're shooting on the other side. And Matt's like, no, when you're standing in a spot, you need to be able to see the puzzle. You need to be able to see the thing you're shooting, And it was such a basic thing, but I was, a lot younger and just like, oh, come on, no, it doesn't look as good. It's like, well, it doesn't matter. It needs to work. It's like, fine. And
it's so weird thinking that this game is almost 10 years old.
Yes.
That is...
I think it was probably 10 years ago last month where we came up with the concept. So, yes.
Yeah, so don't get me started on the whole meme stuff going on where it started with Final Fantasy, but it's like Final Fantasy, you think Final Fantasy was 20 years ago, and you think Final Fantasy 4, Final Fantasy 20 years ago, and it's Final Fantasy 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, when this game was coming out, we said that games that were 10 years old were retro, but I feel like people don't consider games on the 3DS retro games, even if they did come out 10 plus years ago.
Right.
But, it's amazing how well this game really, I think, has stood the test of time, because I still think that people really look fondly on both Switch Force games, both 1 and 2. Like, yeah. I've been wanting a Switch Force 3 for forever.
Yeah, I was telling Austin before you guys even got here that, we have our long-running joke that Mighty Switch 3 would be Postwoman Patty serving subpoenas to the Hooligan Sisters.
Okay, you see, I misheard you, and I thought you said some peanuts, and...
I mean, she could be giving them peanuts, too.
I mean, I don't know if you're allowed to send that in the mail, but sure.
Circus theme?
Oh, no, not circus peanuts. Although I guess you could have a circus-themed Mighty Switch Force as well. You're in charge, so, you make whatever game you want.
I'm just going to steal your idea and just make it happen.
Oh man!
I mean, we'd be flattered, so go right ahead.
Patty Wagon mishears someone when they tell her to serve a subpoena, and actually does show up with a bag of peanuts.
So you said you did art for this game. Did you mostly just do like the tile and level art, or did you do any of the character art in this?
I didn't do any of the character art. I mean, okay. when I directed the HD version, I did work closely with our art director, Sarah Pocock. Who she oversaw all the animation and dealt with all the outsourcing and turning the art into the HD versions. And then I took the original tile set. By the way, you're doing that wrong there. You just like
I know, but I'm being a stubborn gamer. I know I can do it this way, so I'm going to.
I'm going to brute force this. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like you're being too
if
hard.
I know I can, I need to show the game I can.
You're being
it's
too
not
hard
going
on
to beat
yourself.
me.
Because like there's a flow. Once you know the flow, it's like you can make it through here in 2 minutes. Anyway, but yeah.
Hey, I did it.
You did. Good job. The tile set. I took the tile set and stamped out all the art into the individual images, and then I colored them. And it's fun. It was really fun because I actually had a PSD that had a thumbnail of every single like kind of level and what they were thematically, like whether it would be like major city in the background or a lot of trees in the background, or it was the junkyard, and also color combinations. So from one level to the next, you weren't getting the same sort of color going on. In fact, in level 2, the left side of the level is kind of red and the right side's kind of blue. So I was able to just like put some color tone on there. And also level 11, I repeated that theme of like a color tone on one side versus the other. So, but yeah, I didn't really do anything with the characters per se. That was all handled by Sarah and some outsourcers.
Just to keep on the idea of the creative of the game, one of the things that I am shocked we have not mentioned yet is Jake Kaufman, his outstanding soundtrack for this game. Mighty Switch Force 1 and 2, I think, are some of his best work. I have to wonder, how much direction do you give him whenever you're, or any of your other composers, when you're telling them what kind of music to make for a game? Like, do you just say, here's the game, and then he does magic? Or, like, how closely do you like, tell him what you want or need for
every artist is different. But with Jake, it's you show him the game and he gives you magic. And that's basically it. And I know for part 2, I did say, like, the only thing I was hoping to get was a particular sound, like, of a keyboard from that M83 was doing, which was a very, like, 80s kind of, say, like, Karate Kid, like particular keyboard. And I don't know if you ever actually did it, but that was about the only thing. But yeah, Jake, you just tell him, hey, here's what it is. And he's like, I got it. I know exactly what to do. And he does. So it was the same thing with Thor. Yeah, like with Thor and DuckTales, it's just like, hey, here's what the level looks like. He's like, all right, I'm on it. And then he just does it, and it's perfect.
Well, DuckTales, I imagine, is also a somewhat different beast because a lot of the music for that game had already been composed when it came out on the NES.
Yeah, but how he takes it and interprets it, like, I didn't tell him, like, oh yeah, for this one, do this kind of thing, do this kind of thing. Like, the way he took the Amazon theme and gave it its flavor, and he took the theme for the Himalayas and gave this, like, guitar, and it's just like, it's almost like it's like a 12-string, like, Spanish guitar in a way. It's like, this is so good. And then the 2 original stages, he had to make songs that, he looked at I showed him the art, and, like, we're doing this, like, lava level, and we're doing this this other one in Scrooge's money bin. He's like, all right, got it, and he just did it.
Ryan, what are you doing?
I'm doing it wrong. I'm doing it wrong is the problem.
I can tell.
You almost had it at that one point, and then
I screwed it up. Yes,
you did. Yeah. I don't know if I could memorize the path that you need to go in order to get the part-time.
There we go.
You'd be surprised. It's not as challenging as he's making it look. Sorry.
You're fine. I mean,
Roasting Ryan on his gameplay is part of the initiation process.
Okay.
Being on this channel anyway. So
okay, good. I'm right on par.
Yeah. Oh, good. See, puns is also part of the initiation process, as long as I'm in charge. So,
only in your mind, Ted. Only in your mind.
It is indeed in my mind. Oh yeah, I forgot. The gimmick for the final level was that it's very similar to the final level in Mighty Flip Champs, where you have to basically you lose agency over when you're allowed to switch stuff, and you have to basically it's more about timing than anything else. Was this level designed like, okay, we want to do something similar to what we did with Flip Champs, or did it come from something else?
No, it literally was, let's do it like Flip Champs, because it was sort of, we were theming this as it's a Mighty game, and I know we haven't released another Mighty game since, but there's always talk about what would our next Mighty game be. And by the way, spikes would go here in the more difficult version, but it was too difficult, so I took the spikes out. And
where were they?
Because then right where Ryan fell at first time.
Oh, okay.
So it was like they were kind of unforgiving. And people panic, and they make the wrong jump, and they fall all the way from right here all the way down to those spikes sometimes. So it was always bad. And then this jump trips people up a lot, because the timing of it is you have to jump to land not on it, but like in it.
Yeah, it's a bit awkward.
It is. That's the one that like throws me off when I'm trying to get a par time.
Thank you for the little safety platform directly underneath it, by the way.
Look, I mean, there's challenge, but you don't want to be unfair. You don't want to be mean to the player. You want them to be challenged, but it's not fun to make them feel dumb for trusting you. You know, and so when you want them to make this leap of faith, you need to make sure that it's not gonna be so scary that you are killing them and being unfair to them. You know, so
That was my fault.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, with this, it was what is a mighty title. One of the things was, you know, mixing it up in the last level and finding a new thing like this. And this was a callback to Flip Champs, you know, and like what works, you don't have to come up with everything from scratch all the time. If you have like sort of a process and that makes sense for, you know, the kind of game you're trying to make.
Was it?
There you go.
So the last level, I would imagine, would almost always be longer than all of the levels before it, just due to, you know, trying to make the last level memorable.
By the way, I just want to, please hold that thought.
Yeah.
These 4 guys are there because that gate wouldn't work unless I had all 5 turtle guys in there. So this was a limitation of just, I tried making a puzzle with a gate, and it didn't work until I added all the enemies, and so I just put them in an area where they're just walking around and they can't get to anywhere. So it required 0 additional programming. Hey, Sarah Love, it required 0 additional programming from anybody. So it was really...
I just gotta say, I love developer workarounds like that. When you, like, I remember when we were doing Crash, Lewis talked about how one of the ways that they made extra checkpoints was they just put an invisible box.
Oh yeah,
into
for the
level,
bonus stages. But then they added the comic book filter for the inverted stage, and forgot to tell the filter to not do the pop a visual effect for breaking boxes when the invisible checkpoint breaks. So when you're playing those inverted stages specifically, you can always see the invisible checkpoint breaking.
Oh, that's good. The other thing too with this level I love is the higher you go, the more overgrown it becomes.
Oh,
so, like,
yeah, this is one of the coolest little details about the level, as you see, and it looks really, really cool in the HD version as well.
And then these guys are here just to not make the little turtle guys feel alone. So they're just there because I just did it for fun, for just a visual appeal.
You see, I always kind of assumed it was just like it's getting scarier and scarier. Look at all the enemies that are now.
I mean, that's an aspect
around.
of it. That's an aspect of it too. I just think it adds a lot of it just adds a lot of feeling to the area, you know. So.
Is there any secret lore about the muck that came out of the glass tube, or is it just a muck that came out of a glass tube and we don't get to know any secret lore?
Yeah, there's no secret lore.
Aw, okay.
Sorry.
I mean, that does lead into the kind of next thing I wanted to ask, since we're kind of almost there, but considering this is a puzzle game, how do you kind of go about the creative process of like making a boss for it?
You know what? I actually have no idea. That was all Matt. I came on the project and he had already had it sort of designed out, and it was just, oh yeah, you know, like let's have a boss versus just getting to Gendarmer. You need to face something, and just the idea that he's actually like capturing the hooligan sisters, and you need to kind of like rescue them. That, you know, they can be reformed or not so bad. Okay, why'd you jump there? Why didn't you just stand on the red? Sometimes you just don't need to jump. But there you needed to stay on
now
the blue.
See,
this is where it gets tricky. This is where you start going like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
I needed the blue.
Yeah, now I needed this.
And you kind of panic a tiny bit, and you almost jump into a block that's about to like smash you. This is when the game gets kind of fun that way. I'm sorry, I don't know if I completely derailed what we were talking about. I don't remember.
No,
the
you're
boss.
fine. You answered the question.
Yeah, I have no idea. But you know, you just if I had to, I could probably do it. I probably could.
Okay, so the Hooligan Sisters escaped from jail before the game started.
Correct.
But what were they in jail for in the first place?
Oh.
Like, what crime did they commit?
What crime didn't they commit? They're hooligans, man. They've got a history of just bad choices.
Okay, well then for committing literally every crime possible, they got off pretty easy considering that they got out on parole like a year and a half later for 2. So, you know.
Basically.
Was that good behavior then?
Planet Land's a pretty nice place.
Pretty nice place. Okay, that's
Planet Land's very forgiving. It has a good reform system.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
So yeah, Matt just like randomly came up with the name Planet Land, and when he did the original art for this, for the poster, and like it was all laid out, and I'm very meticulous about 2D design and like tangents and like things overlapping. And so one of the descriptions I made while we were doing it was like, oh, this design, it's Tangent City. There's so many tangents, and he just thought that was so funny that for Switch Force 2, Planet Land's like the world or the continent, and Tangent City is the actual city in Planet Land. So
that must be where we live.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Ryan, I feel like it's a little awkward that you didn't mention us and tangents before we started.
So, and then this is now the panic area.
Oh
so
yeah, this made me so nervous when I was playing.
Even though it's
also,
like the simplest part of the level when you get down to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're worried that you're gonna get crushed by the blocks. Like it's terrifying.
I mean, and I also put hearts between like some of these launch blocks. Like I trapped like heart containers on platforms because like you'd get to an area and we didn't have like a super checkpoint, but it's like, oh, let's give someone full health, and then this part is just pure panic, and then and then I don't know, just all sensation there at the end, and then our boss.
Huh. And for beating the game you get the super blaster, or for beating all the part times?
Beating the game. Part time originally didn't really have anything unlocked with it, and we didn't have a ton of content. I think does part time get you the gym clothes? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it gets you an ending image.
Oh, that's right.
I gotta say, I like the idea of collecting the hooligan sisters as the boss's literal health bar here.
Yeah. That's good because it keeps with the theme of like, you need to collect all 5, and then that's you've basically beaten the stage.
It's also interesting that it's a very small story element, but the final boss, the big conflict of the final boss is to protect the criminals that you've spent the entire game capturing.
Right.
I mean, when they released the evil goop onto the ground, they probably didn't imagine they'd be doing this to it. So, they're sorry, probably.
Exactly. It's really funny that, then at the time, Nintendo had never really done DLC, and so they told us they were going to do DLC for the 3DS, and so we created the 5 bonus levels specifically for this, for Nintendo doing their first ever DLC. So, and it always kind of bums me out a little bit that it's never really kind of considered part of the main game.
Yeah, that's just unfortunately part of kind of how games work is that in most cases, when there's DLC stuff after, it's just kind of considered a different sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like expansion packs back in the PC days in like the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah, because the bonus stages in this are some of my favorites because it was after the game was done, and then we were like, let's come up with some new things.
Actually credited as Tyrannical Overlord.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not kidding. Tyrannical Overlord.
Okay.
It's every single WayForward game he's credited like that, which is just one of my favorite running jokes.
We've had a couple people ask us, like publishers, like, can you change that? Because we're really worried it's gonna like scare people, and it's just like, oh no, and then we don't, and it's fine. So yeah, one of the songs, it's great is with Switch Force, the hyperdrive levels. Every single hyperdrive level uses a remix because Jake loves having his friends, remix his songs, and he made remixes for all the stages in this, and it's great because one of the songs at the time, like dubstep was like huge and it was like overdone. And so he did the dubstep reveal of Switch Force Hyperdrive Edition, and someone on YouTube like made fun of the fact that it was oh god, more dubstep kind of thing, and their name was backwards, but it was spelled backwards, and Jake called that version of the song, he called it the backwards mix, but spelled it backwards. So we basically were hinting at that person like, oh, thanks. Glad you like it, but yeah. Yeah, so illustrators, Alex Ahad, Sarah Pocock,
audio
Sasha.
guy.
Audio guy. That's what he called himself. He's like, I'm the audio guy because he did the music and the sound effects. You know. Oh yeah, and Bryn and Luke. Those are Matt Bozon's kids who are now like nearly adults. 10 years later, they were doing kid testing for us.
That's awesome.
And these
Thank
are all the
you again
directors.
for,
this is all of us: Matt Bozon, Rob Buchanan, Mark Gomez, me, James, Armando, Adam Tierney, Sean. We were all in the room designing the game. So
that's awesome. Thank you again for coming on with us. By the way, it is really nice to be able to get some of the inside information on the game and like just get to kind of know what the thought process behind making something like this is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure. It's a lot of fun, and it means a lot to me that people still like it because it was a fun game to make. The levels are so much fun to design, and you know, I worked hand in hand with Herbster to take his designs and refine them, and it's, I don't know, I just fell in love with level design after doing this, so it's awesome.
Yeah.
Was there anything, like, just before you have to leave us, is there anything you
I don't have to
could
leave
say?
you. You're kicking me out, right?
I
Sorry,
will neither
sorry.
confirm nor deny. I guess, like, was there anything making this game that you think, like that you learned that you then would use in later stuff? Like, was there anything you learned while making this that you really started to focus on when you were to make later games?
I honestly think that the difficulty and the kind of the scale of something, because after making this, and some people freaked out that it was short and that they could beat it. It's like, well, I beat it, so now what? It's like, well, you beat it. You beat the game. It was a $5 game, $6 game, and you beat it. And it's like, yeah, but now what do I do with it? It's like you don't do anything, and that can be okay, because you know, so many people play games that they never beat them. You never see the ending. You know, it's like, do you feel like you get more value out of like owning a game you might play someday, or something where you got to enjoy everything that's in it? You know, so I took that with me, and then also just the difficulty, like having Voldy play the game, having the kids, Matt's kids play the game, and watching them struggle with things that I thought were easy, and just coming to understand that you can make something easy and it's still good, and it's still a challenge, and it's still fun. You know, it doesn't have to be the hardest thing ever. And I forgot that when I made the Mummy Demastered, and I apologize to everyone. And then I remembered it from Marvel Knights. So
I mean, I know John's uncle Greg is a big fan of that game. It's like one of his favorites ever.
that's cool.
So
You know,
don't feel too bad about it.
if you ever need me to talk about that one, I'm all mouth. I'm all ready to go. So
Nice. I'm sure we'll get to it someday.
awesome.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you coming right after this one, Mighty Switch Force 2. We are redoing that game as well, so see you guys all then.